Hello, welcome to the YBMB Show. We're live again, and today is our Mindset Day. So as you know, those of you who follow, and lots of you are following now, which is brilliant, thank you. We run this live show Monday, Wednesday and Friday at midday. Monday, midday GMT, I should say. Monday we cover everything to do with body, how to achieve a transformation of your body, and if you're already there, how to maintain that. Wednesday we talk about mindset and different aspects of mindset, and Friday we talk about business. And usually speaking, I try to get a guest to come on to give us some time to sort of talk about these different aspects. And today I'm really delighted to have Jason Stimpson join us. So hi, Jason.
Hi, Angela. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I've known Jason for quite some time now. I've known him for about 6 months because I was very happy that Jason joined the YBMB program actually back in the summer, and he can tell you a bit about that. But today, what I really noticed about Jason, and his background is in the finance industry. I'll let him tell you a bit more about it. But just quickly, he did 30 years in the corporate world, and much of that was in the compliance, on the compliance side. And I tell you that because we are going to talk a little bit about his current business, which is trading from home. And maybe one would associate trading with someone who might be a bit, happy to take risks and a bit gung-ho, and you couldn't be further from the truth with Jason. But what I've also noticed about you, Jason, is that you have managed to achieve an amazing body transformation, quietly and diligently, just really getting on with it, just implementing all the things that we cover in the program. And as a result of that, you achieved a fantastic result really quite early on. Once I got to know you a bit more, I realized on your business side as well, you simply take the tools at your disposal, you implement them really consistently, and you get an amazing result there too. And so what I really want to cover in this session is about the trick to achieving consistency, really, because that's what achieves goals, we both believe. But before we get into the detail of it, just tell us a little bit about your background, Jason, and maybe your take on consistency and how to get things done.
Yeah, absolutely, Angela. Well, as you mentioned, I've got a background in finance. I've worked in the city for about 30 years, close to it. And now I decided I really wanted to sort of pivot to do something else. Spend more time with the family, really, was one of the main key areas. So I really needed to have a look and see what I wanted to, or I could be able to really do. And stockbroking was something that I'd been involved in for a number of years. I've started off on the dealing side and then latterly moved across into compliance. I'd sort of worked my way up to sort of quite a high level in that sort of space. But really, when I looked at stockbroking as a potential option, I looked at trading from home, and that would give me the flexibility that I was really looking for, and the life-work balance, which everybody probably talks about.
Yeah.
As far as consistency is concerned, I personally found that applying consistency to both the body transformation and also the business is very closely aligned. So mind, body, and business. It's something that before I'd met Angela, I hadn't really sort of joined the three together. I'd always enjoyed working out and going to the gym, but I was never really seeing the results that I wanted. And it was absolutely amazing when I started building the mindset, really interlinking these two different subjects. Everything seemed to drop into place. It was hard work saying that, but I think consistency is something that I benefited from from the business side of things, like having strategies, applying them and working to them, which I guess we'll probably talk about a little bit later. But also from the body side of things, being consistent with diet, being consistent with exercise programs, being consistent with water intake, all of the things that Angela teaches us, I've been able to apply and really surprise myself in the results that I've actually achieved.
And I mean, I'm sort of on the one hand sort of surprised because you achieved it so quickly, but on the other, not surprised because I know these things work, having been through my own sort of physical transformation myself, as you know, and alongside doing the work to learn about the body, I was sort of doing a lot of personal development and learning about mindset, and it was almost, it all happened at the same time as a result of my own sort of, I suddenly had this photo shoot, and there I was, you know, with a set of abs. And I know you experienced the same when you came on the photo shoot, and you have this photo and you look and you sort of go, wow, you know, I've achieved that. And
absolutely,
don't you? And I remember prior to that looking at photos and thinking, well, you know, those people, that's not me. I'm not athletic like that. I'm a middle-aged woman. I'm not going to be able to achieve that. And then you do, and then you get the result, and you're sort of quite shocked, but it's very empowering, and it makes you realize that you can do a lot more things. And I think that's where the mindset for me came in, and I realized the two are so linked, and things then sort of really took off business wise. And I realized all three are inextricably linked, that when you get these two foundations in place, body and mindset, then your business, you know, takes off in whatever direction you want it to. And there are many thousands of traders, but many, they don't do anywhere near as well as you've done in a relatively short space of time. And it's not because, you know, you've had that one lucky trade, as you've explained to us, because you've been, you know, generous enough to explain a lot of the mechanisms that you use on trading on the program, which has been really useful to the members as well. But as you explained to us, it's simply finding the tools and implementing them. So I think that there's a few things that I wanted to talk to you about, first of all. Firstly, about how you go about and find, you know, the way of being consistent, because, you know, we can all go on courses. So you came onto my course, I gave you the tools that you needed, you know, and then that's one sort of step to take. That's, if you like, if people want a roadmap of how to get from A to B, the first thing you've got to do is go and find out you know, from someone who knows, you know, what they've done, so that you can copy the details really, and you can implement. But that's what step one of the roadmap. But then you've got all these other steps of implementation, and that's so often where people don't follow through. So how do you, you know, assuming you've got the tools, because anyone can come on my program and they can get the tools, and they can go on trading courses like yours or ones you've been on and get the tools. But then what? You know, how do you make sure that you implement it beyond a few days?
I think you have to have a desire, really. If you don't really believe you want to achieve something, you're not really going to get there, I don't think. So I think it's having a desire, and I had a focus. I wanted to change for a reason. I realised that, you know, I was coming up to 50 and I needed to pivot to do something else if I wanted to achieve my longer term aims. I think things like journaling, visualization, affirmations, all very important, because they keep reiterating the message. So rather than just actually looking at something once a month, once every quarter, I look at the visual, and like the journal. On a daily basis, I journal. I'll talk a little bit later about the journaling for trading, but that's been very useful to me, and that's aligned to what we do in the YBMB program anyway. So I think having a desire is important to start with. Having the belief as well. You want to believe that you can actually achieve something. And you know, I mean, what you've achieved is absolutely amazing. And always like to learn from people who have walked the walk rather than just talk the talk. I think that's important as well. So
yeah, and I think that's really important. The first one is really wanting something, and so often we see people take action when they have no choice. You know, so when people get told that they're very ill, surprise, surprise, you know, if they're diabetic or something, bang, they change their diet. Or, you know, God forbid, they get told, you know, they've got cancer or something, they stop smoking, they stop drinking, whatever it is. You know, and up until that point, I think very often we will do more for others than we will even do for ourselves. So either we do it because we have to, you know, from a fitness point of view, because we're forced into it, or we do it for other people. And so trying to find the desire to do it just for yourself, I think is that bit harder. A lot of people put it down to, you know, well, I'm not that vain, I'm not a bodybuilder, I wouldn't, you know, I don't have time. But I mean, I don't know about you, but I would say to people that, you know, don't wait until you've really got to do something here. It's a bit like saving money, and we'll come on to that in a minute, but, you know, don't wait till you have to, till you're destitute in terms of your health. And even if that doesn't bother you, then think about the people around you, because as soon as you've got children, loved ones, you know, your physical health is not about you anymore, because they'd also be devastated if anything happened to you. So it's trying to find the reason for firstly wanting it, isn't it?
I mean, that's absolutely one of my key reasons that, there'd been some illness serious illness in the family. I wanted to be around a lot more to support my wife, and I had a young daughter. I've still got a young daughter.
Yeah.
So that was a key driver. I didn't want to end up, with a dad bod at 50 type of thing, and someone that would struggle to do things in latter life. So I had that as a driver as well, which helped push me. I think that the fact that if you can embed habits into day-to-day life, it actually creates time rather than actually takes time away from you. So it gives you more freedom, which is something that I've been reading about in some reading material that you actually recommended on the course.
Well, we'll get into those in a minute, because I know you've this is what I mean about, you get the tools and you actually then implement them, and of course they work. But before we get into that, I really was sort of trying to dig down a little bit more about how to get someone on this path, because so don't wait till you're ill, don't wait until it's almost too late. Same with business as well. I always think, don't wait until your business has gone bust, or don't wait until you lose your job. Start thinking about the future you, and this really is where like you say, the visioning and everything works. But then the second thing, the other point you just made, was about believing it, and believing that you can do it for yourself. And sometimes people say to me, oh, well, I'm not very confident, and when I'm a bit more confident, I'll do it, or when I've got a bit more time. But I always think, like, you're never going to get confident and you're never going to believe until you see a slight result. You take action and you start to see a slight result. That's when I think you start to gain momentum.
I mean, I never ever believed that I'd get down to a weight that I achieved in 6 months working with you in the program. I thought I might lose a few kilograms, but it was just applying the consistency to the process over a period of time. Just the results just really excelled what I was expecting, really.
I mean, it is amazing. And afterwards, I don't know if Sabrina in the background, whether you have Jason's picture, you could pop that up later, or if not, we'll put it in the link. But you did, you just did such an amazing transformation. And I guess what happened, because it certainly did with me, is that sort of you try it for like a week, or because it's surprisingly quickly when you start to change the way you eat and the way you exercise. Yeah. So I guess the same thing happened with you, did it? That you start to see a result, so you do more, and you see a result when you do more.
Absolutely. I mean, the sort of weight loss was quite steady. So if I was to actually look at a chart of the weight loss, it was quite a steady progression downwards, which was good. It wasn't sort of all over the place.
No,
I think that was largely down to having being able to put the building blocks and the consistency in place.
And you also sort of went the other way in terms of your strength and muscle gain, because you were really focused on progressive overload, and your weight training, and you were assiduously adding weight every week as well to get stronger, weren't you, and doing more reps and all that sort of stuff.
I was very conscious that to actually build weight, you've got to put the muscles under strain.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of your teachings. I've been taught that at the gym and personal trainers and things.
Yeah.
But it was just putting the two together.
Yeah.
But really saw the results where beforehand, I've been going for years to the gym and not really getting the six pack or the sort of bit more lean definition, really.
And then tell us a little bit more about your experience of once you had these things in place, because at the same time, you'd been in the corporate world and in finance for a long time, but you've not been trading that long, had you? Right. It was relatively new for you to start to do that. And I know sort of like 6 months on, you've had phenomenal results, which is why you did a masterclass for all of us. But tell us a little bit about how, being so much more physically in control, fit, if you like, and mentally clear-headed helped you. What did it do for you on the business side?
I think it was clarity of thought, Angela, really. That previously, beforehand, I was sort of getting caught between a bit of indecision, really. And it was talking about segmenting a day, which was again something else that we learned on the program. But where beforehand I'd have lots of different information flows coming at me all throughout the day, I decided to segment them. So, for example, when I was looking at the data feeds to analyze the charts for some technical analysis, I was doing that I started doing that sort of during the day at the point when I started out. but then I moved to doing it sort of end of day and beginning before the market opened the following day. And that made a massive difference because it takes a lot of the emotion out of it. And trading at the end of the day is a very emotional activity. And a lot of people's judgment is skewed by the emotion kicking in, obviously fear being an emotion, fear of missing out, fear of the size of the positions, whatever. But if you can actually try and segment the day, so I do the analysis when it's a bit calmer, and then I'm just entering the trades during the market hours, really, and keeping an overview on the positions, making sure the stops are in the right place. I'm not spending as much time in front of the screens as I was, and that made a massive difference to the trading success, really. Where beforehand I was tinkering around a lot with positions, I stopped doing that, and that made a big uplift in the sort of P&L results of that. Also, I started walking, trying to do 10,000 steps a day. I'm fortunate that where I live, there's a lot of open fields and countryside. So I was breaking the day up and going for a walk, and it was amazing how it cleared my head, really. So I was coming back to the trading screens and having a look at what's going on with a much fresher approach to things. Also, the diet, I think that had a big impact as well. That if you eat a lot of rubbishy foods, you're lethargic, you don't have a lot of energy. My energy levels seem to go up as well. I've got probably a boring diet, if you like, but I see it really as a fuel for the body. On a daily basis. Anyway, it's nice to have a nice meal, of course, but I eat a lot of sea bass, salmon, chicken, things that are high in proteins, really easy to make, don't take a lot of time to prepare. Vegetables, so I have a staple diet, really, and I think that those things help. Drink a lot of water, again flushes things out of your system, and it seems to empower you a little bit, really. So I think they were things that made a difference.
And I think it's so interesting what you said about, going out for a walk and then coming back and looking at something with fresh eyes. And, some people might say it's boring, but if you think about it, I think the day-to-day drudge of running a business, no matter what it is a bit boring. Let's be honest, running and doing any job or running any business, even if you really love it, there are going to be times where it's a bit repetitive and a bit boring. And I think that we teach this on the program, don't we? Because we address the body, spend about 3 weeks doing that, then about 3 weeks on mindset, and then we go into business. And one of the key things, as you mentioned, is the compartmentalizing of the day, and having a real structure to the day where all of your personal development and all your walking and your workouts. We spoke this morning about doing this show, and you'd already done your workout. I was doing my 10,000 steps. You have to sort of compartmentalize the day, and then when you sit back down again to do this stuff, like in your case, you're analyzing charts and a lot of data, and in my case, I'm planning curriculums, or I'm sort of doing planning presentation or something. It can be a bit repetitive and a bit boring. And I think you just have to suck it up sometimes and say, yeah, I know it is, but it's going to ultimately get me the result. And all of us human beings are driven by the need for certainty and security, first of all. And this sort of series of steps every day gives you that. And then, you can then enjoy the variety of, being with friends, having fun, watching films or whatever it is. You feel like you've earned it.
So easy in lockdown, though.
We can't. I'm trying to make it lockdown sound exciting, but as much as you can be. So it's so important to, I think, accept that to achieve a really good result in anything, we need to grow up a little bit and just all accept that life is not one big entertainment. And there has to be some structure if you want to achieve a result. And the other thing is that once you start to do this on a more consistent basis, wow, you start to get a little bit of a result. And that's where the belief kicks in, which was part 2 of what you said, is to get this belief. So having, if we get people who are listening, maybe are thinking, well, I agree with all that, okay, so I've got my why, I've got my reason to do it. I do want to get fitter. I want to improve my business, improve my mindset. So that's okay. I believe that, I agree that rather, I have a why. And now, okay, I believe it's possible. Now the next thing is the how. And I think that we've already addressed one thing, which is to think, I've said to people before, well, okay, how do you want your day to be? And they sort of think for a minute and they go, well, I'd like it to be like this, is this. And I go, well, just make it like that then. And it can be that simple. But also there's a lot of reading material that can really help your mindset. And I know that you have been an avid reader and you've really taken a lot of these things on board. So tell us a bit about the things that have really helped you and impacted you, some of the reading material and other tips.
Yeah, of course. I think reading absolutely, key part to this. Probably the book I've got most out of, I would say, is something called Atomic Habits by a gentleman called James Clear. And a lot of what he teaches is very much that, you create good habits, they create you.
Yes.
It's one of his key messages. So I found reading his book was, eye-opening, really. And trying to embed habits, make habit, embed it becomes easy. And that's something I've found. So I get up in the morning, I'm up at 5:30 every day, get a glass of water, weigh myself. That's the first things I do. Then I do some meditation. Again, that was something I've never ever done, meditation, before meeting you. And I actually went.
You hit like 100-day streak or something, did you say?
Yeah. I wouldn't have never thought I would have done that.
Yeah.
Only 10 minutes a day in the morning, but it's surprising how it sets you up for the day ahead, really. Then once I've done that, I go into sort of a visualization and affirmation piece of work and some journaling. So if that's having some structure, then the workouts. So by it gets to 7 o'clock, I'm pretty much done as far as that side of things are concerned, and I've got the rest of the day to myself, not to myself, but to apply it to other things.
And you feel like you've won the day without, having to sort of think about it too much? Because I think if you wake up, and I definitely used to be like this, you wake up, you think about what you're going to do for the day, you've got to get out by a certain time, you might faff about on your phone or whatever, and then suddenly you rush and you're out, and there's been no time to prepare. Whereas if you do it in the way that you've just described, which is one of the things that one of the first things that we sort of teach on the mindset piece here, is that you stack these things. And that's what James Clear talks about. He talks about stacking of habits, doesn't he? So you mentioned, you get up, you weigh yourself, you get your water, you have your meditation. I'm sure that, it doesn't fill you with excitement when you do these things, but you're stacking the habits one after the other.
It becomes second nature almost, really, and then it becomes easy. It's an easy thing to do. It's part of the routine, if you like.
And it becomes who you are. It's the sort of person, because I think it's not what you do. Well, as you said, that's what he says in that book. He says that what you do is what you become. And so if you're thinking about, what you want to become or who you want to become and how that person might behave, and then start to implement those things, then you become that. Something
you mentioned a moment ago, again, it's something that sticks in my mind, is win the first hour or win the day.
Yeah.
So, you're going to have some success in the first hour of the day. It sets you up for the day ahead, really.
Yeah.
And I'll get really frustrated if, for some reason I don't do that. Then you feel like you've missed out, but then you shouldn't beat yourself up about it. There's another one of the affirmations is, never miss twice.
Yeah.
So you might miss a training session for whatever reason on one day, but just as long as you go back or get back on the horse, if you like, the next day, you've not really lost anything out.
And we know, don't we, as well, that one of the real keys to happiness in humans is progression. And if you follow that sort of pattern that you just mentioned in the morning, you just feel like you've progressed somehow. If you've read a little bit, another book is The Miracle Morning, which I know you've read, and I'd strongly recommend anyone listening to hear, is that this is how to sort of structure your morning. Because if you feel that by the morning you've done some exercise, you've re-established your goals, you've done your meditation, you've actually progressed a little bit. And we thrive on progress, us humans. And if you're not growing, you're dying effectively. Like even a flower, if you look at a flower, it gets to a point and then it dies. And so I think, we owe it to ourselves to progress.
It's something Ant Middleton, who's someone else I've read about, he says in one of his books that where he's met people from the army and they said, Ant, you've really changed. As if it's a derogatory sort of comment, when actually he says, well, no, I'll be bloody upset if I haven't changed, really. I haven't seen you for 8 years or whatever.
Yeah, that's a funny thing that people say. I don't know if you've had that, because I definitely had that when I started to. People would actually, I think what happens is when you make that type of change, very often you hold a mirror up to other people and they sort of go, oh, you know, you've changed, as if it's like a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, well, yeah, you know, because I'm trying to progress and trying to improve. And it is actually a really funny byproduct of what happens when you change things in your life and you get fitter and stronger. But at Middleton, you're a fan of that book as well, you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. I read, he's got a couple out. I've read Zero Negativity and also The Fear Bubble.
Oh, yeah, I haven't read the Zero Negativity. I bet that's good.
That's the latest one, yeah.
Any sort of nuggets of information from there?
Really, I mean, it's based around, I think it's pretty much based around when he climbs Everest.
Yeah.
And the challenges he faces, and, you know, he takes on a really big challenge, and how it nearly all came to an end in a bad way at the top of a mountain where people were struck with fear. So, yeah, it's just approaching fear bubbles and not accepting them to start with, and then getting ready and then going through them. And one of his key messages is you'll stand still unless you look to, you know, don't get stuck in a corridor, look to break down doors and see if you're going to be good enough to do something rather than just being
rather think about it. Yeah, it's like we said about confidence. You know, sometimes people say, oh, I'm not confident enough to do that. Well, then just do it, and then you'll see, you know. But it was interesting you saying about that title, No Negativity, because I have often spoken about you know, the fact that negativity is our biggest, it's there, our brain is there as our protector, and that's why it's negative, because it looks for fear, it looks for danger, and it tries to stop us doing things so that we stay alive. But we can be our own worst enemy. And there's this part of our primitive brain called the amygdala, and for anyone who's not familiar with it, it's the part of our brain that actually takes over when we're feeling tired and drained. It just sort of takes over, and it therefore keeps us on the sofa watching Netflix, because we don't live in caves. Originally it was there so that we would look for danger. And what's really interesting is that it screens via our eyes and what we're smelling and what we're seeing, and what we're tasting, and it screens for danger, just in the same way a primitive person, you know, you would have been screening to see if someone was about to jump out and eat you. And so that's why, as humans now, developed humans now, that what we do is we take a lot more notice of negative stuff than we do of positive. If you imagine a primitive person walking through the forest, seeing lovely flowers and pretty things, you know, that's not going to hurt them. Whereas if they see potential danger, they could potentially die. And that's why the media, you know, they know that we are going to be a lot more focused on bad news than good. And that's why they pile bad news. And I actually have taken off the BBC, the Sky app, and all of those apps, taken off my phone. You know, I don't miss any good news. I don't miss any news I need to know about. But all that stuff about the vaccine.
That makes a lot of sense to do that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, because, you know, we don't want to be held back by this stuff. So your reading material and controlling negativity is critical. And you were saying about someone else that a few other books that you love reading. It'd be good to tell people about those.
Well, the Jocko Willink book as well. It's actually called Discipline Equals Freedom.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, the title says it in itself, really, that if you have good structures in place, good habits, then they actually create freedom for you, rather than, you know, people think just because you have all these processes in place, it's a bad thing. But I personally haven't found that at all. You know, I've got processes in place for the trading and different strategies to follow, following different, you know, setting certain tolerances for the amount of risk I'm prepared to accept and in each trade, and these type of things. And they make a big difference, because it becomes almost robotic. That if you actually have that in place, you don't have to think so much. You know, does it meet the criteria? Yes or no. If it doesn't, move on, assess something else, rather than trying to, you know, just wing it, really, if you like.
And I suppose, you know, as long as you then diarise a set time where you're going to review those criteria, which I guess you do as part. You talked about the fact you have a journal for your trading as well, where you analyse all this stuff. And so those are the times where, rather than fussing about, oh, is this the right decision now? you've got into a habit where you implement these decisions about your trading in a robotic fashion, as you put it, and then you later on you look at your journal to see whether, you know, what you've learned and whether these processes are correct. Is that how you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned fear a few minutes ago, and I think fear is one of the big problems in trading. Really, people can get paralyzed by it and they don't act, or it can cause them to enter a trade late at the wrong point, so they effectively not putting probability in their favor. So I think trying to sort of manage fear and eliminate it where you can is, you know, quite an important area. So psychology really of trading. But as far as the journaling, what I do is every time I trade, I do have a little journal I write up, just take a quick screenshot of the entry point, the rationale on why I decided to enter the trade when I did. And then when I sell or close a position out, a later date screenshot of that closing chart, and then you know, the reason why it was closed or decided to close it, and then just sort of analyze it. And you can do that in just a couple of short notes. It's not a war and peace or anything like that. It's just having a record. I mean, you can look back on it in time and just see if you're making a constant mistake, and then try and correct it. Another thing is really that don't judge your performance just on one trade. I was sort of taught that, you know, you should be analysing your success or failure over a number of trades. So I tend to pick 10. So I'll look at my performance over 10 different trades, and if I'm up over that period of time by, you know, say 10% or above or whatever, then, you know, the trading has been quite a success. Where obviously if I'm not making money over 10 trades, something needs to probably be fixed. Either my approach is wrong, or, you know, strategy I'm applying needs to be fine-tuned a little bit, these type of things. But yeah, it's just, if you've got a journal, you've got a permanent record. It's like on our course. It's the same thing there. I think that, you know, if you analyse on a daily basis, you go back in a month, most of us can't remember what we did last week, let alone, you know, a month ago. So it just builds up a record.
Well, I think, you know, I'm a big advocate of what gets measured gets done. And you've often mentioned how what you realise when as part of your work, it's so similar to the things that we teach with body building and body development and, you know, health control. Because that's the other thing is, I've spoken before about this, that, you know, people might look and say, well, I don't want a six pack or whatever. So, you know, it's irrelevant for me, but it isn't, because it's about what goes on inside your body as well as what goes on the outside. And, you know, you can get your blood levels by eating the way that we advocate on the program, by training the way we train. It's amazing what the human body can do. And, you know, it becomes so fit and such a great sort of operating machine so quickly, relatively quick. And you think how many years, you know, we may have been maybe not following the right regime. But just getting back to that journaling, you know, and what gets measured gets done. The same with the body, really. You know, we look every week at what macros we've consumed, what's happened with our weight up and down. We take no notice of day-to-day fluctuations. You know, people start saying, oh, wow, great, I've lost 1 kg today. And then, oh my God, I'm so depressed because I actually was 500 grams up again yesterday. I mean, you know, we just take no notice. We take notice of the trend, because the trend is the important thing. And the
trend is my friend. That's what I think.
The trend is your friend, and the same in your trading, and the same in my business. So I suppose that's really the sort of the third and final part of what I wanted to get out of today is, firstly, having your objective clear. Secondly, believing that it's possible by doing some and finding a little result, and then you build your belief by doing. And thirdly, by helping yourself with a consistent mindset by all the mechanisms you've described, compartmentalizing, reading books to sort of re-emphasize the importance of a positive mindset. And so hopefully that's been helpful. Is there anything else, you know, because I know what great results you've achieved, and you're very modest, and you don't sort of go overboard about your business achievements and everything, but I've seen what it is, and you've done really, you know, remarkably well in such a short space of time. I've seen it, you know, on the body side, and I've seen it in your business side as well. But I also know that you're a normal guy, you know, you worked in a high powered, but still, you know, an ordinary job like many of us. And, you know, normal family guy. But, you know, you've managed this amazing level of consistency. So any final tips for people, because there'll be other sort of normal people just listening to us, what, you know, any final tips, what we say to them?
Well, I think anybody can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it, I think. Maybe sort of being flexible and open-minded,
Yeah.
I think is an important characteristic or to have. Certainly from the trading side of things, you know, you're not going to make the right decision all the time. You know, quite often I'm wrong, but it's being big enough to accept that you've just picked the wrong decision, wrong way to trade, for example, when you get out of the trade. So you still stay in. You've still got your, you know, protect your money. So your risk management. That's quite important. So being flexible, you know, with your body and things. You know, perhaps because you've always done something at the beginning of the day, and you don't want to sort of change and start doing working out. You know, when you rather than staying in bed and watching the news channels or whatever. But realizing that, you know, short-term pain can turn into a very big long-term gain. You know, we all want to live as long as we can.
Yeah. And on this program, we advocate that to be 156. So you and I are only a third of the way through.
Be a pup then.
That's it. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just being flexible, taking on advice, and learning from people who have actually done it, like yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's a lovely point to end on. Really, is that, you know, if you are coachable, if you are open-minded, if you're prepared to put your preconceived views to one side, you know, people sort of said to me things like, yeah, but, you know, I'm not disciplined like you, or well, I hate the gym, or I don't like eating like that, or, you know, I think if you want the end goal, as you said, look at the people that have managed to achieve it. Put your preconceived ideas and be prepared to change. Be prepared to change. And so often people in their 50s, like you and I, really do think that their best days are behind them, that they are where they are, they do what they do, and why should they change? And I just think that, you know, they shouldn't. If they're really, really happy with their lot, they absolutely shouldn't. But if they want something more and they feel a bit wistful about what could have been, you and I are here to tell them that everything is possible. And if you want some help, then jump on the YBMB program like Jason did, and you will meet lovely people like Jason who you know, also walk the walk. And not only will you learn about your body and your mindset, but you will learn about business as well. And we'll give you some links. And if you want to follow Jason, he's on LinkedIn, Jason Stimpson. I think that's mainly where you are. Anywhere else that we can find you? Facebook?
I have got a Facebook page. I only just started using it though. I'm not an avid social media user at the moment. But,
yeah, I love that at the moment. You will be. Yeah, really great. Thank you so much, Jason. You are an absolute inspiration and such a pleasure to know. And you know, a pleasure for someone like me to have on my program, because, like I said, you're coachable. You take the stuff, you challenge it, but then you just do it and see if it works. And when it does, you're all in. And I think that's admirable. So thank you very much. Lovely to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, nice to see you. Take care.
Yeah, bye.
All right.